Ashequka Lacey, and I am your Blaze Talk speaker, one of your Blaze Talk speakers for today. And for me, I wanted to talk about overcoming obstacles and persevering. I know that us as women, we go through so much, and sometimes it is very, very easy to not necessarily give up, but sometimes you slow down and then you lose the motivation and you lose the momentum for the things that you have started. I am here to tell you, do not stop and keep going and persevere. It is so important that when you set a goal for yourself that you keep going. I know that is very, very difficult. We go through so many things. We go through changes from jobs to having children to maybe new relationships or ending relationships. You do not want to let those things or those obstacles deter you from what your goal is. And me personally, I am here with my testimony to share with you about the obstacles that I have faced, um, that I have also overcome, and I have persevered even when things looked very, very difficult to continue. I want to share my story with you, and I really, really hope that the tools and the things that I offer you is something that you can take away. So, first, I am again Ashequka, and I am an author, children's book author of two books, Jakobi and Me and The Little Girl with the Big Name. I also have a publishing company called Inspiring Jreams Publishing, where I do book coaching, and I'm basically like your accountability coach, and I help you through self-publishing. I also have a all-natural skincare line that is called Baby Bays Naturals, which is targeted towards young children and babies who suffer with eczema, dry skin, and sensitive skin. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, she does a whole lot. It wasn't always like that. And for me to get to where I am today and to have the success that I feel is success, I went through a lot and I went through obstacles, and I was blessed to get to where I am today. So let's start from the beginning where everything changed. 2018, my life, I found out I was pregnant. I had a 9-year old, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to have a baby. I already have a 9-year old. And I was excited. I didn't feel sad or anything about it. But on October, well, not October, it was August of 2018 when I went in to find out the gender of my son. And well, now I know it's a boy, but I didn't then. And when I went to find out the gender, we were excited. It was him, my son, and my baby that I'm carrying, his father. And I walked in there, we're excited. He's looking at the gender. He tells us it's a boy. Once he tells us it's a boy, you can feel a shift in the energy. So I'm like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And he tells me that the femur on my son is very small, and he's worried about that. And it could mean that my son could have Down syndrome, or it could be some type of dwarfism. So immediately after that, I had to go to another hospital and get intensive ultrasounds done to look at this baby. And they looked at him and they told me that he had, it did look like a type of dwarfism, and it looked like a lethal type of dwarfism. And what my options were at the time, they asked me if I would like to have further testing done, like a amniocentesis, where they go in with this huge needle. They took the fluid out, and it was so scary because if they would have hit that sac, anything could have happened, right? So I go through that in my brain. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm praying that he's okay. It took weeks, probably almost 2 months, just to get the results back of what this diagnosis was for my child. I end up talking to the genetic doctor, and they tell me that my son has a lethal form of dwarfism and that it is a possibility that he will not make it at all. That was heartbreaking, and I really didn't know what to think at that point, because I'm just like, how does this happen? Why did this happen? So many different questions. And I had to see a maternal fetal medicine doctor probably every week, every other week or so, in every appointment. And when I say every appointment, I mean every single appointment. This doctor told me that my son, well, he gave me an option. I'm in Ohio, and at the time, you were able to terminate at like 23 weeks or something like that. I had 2 weeks to think about if I wanted to terminate my son. He told me that that would be the best option to terminate him because his quality of life would not be worth living. This is from a doctor who's telling me this. And I'm just like, are you sure? Are there any other options? The other option that he gave me was to have my son, and they would basically put him in palliative care, which is like a baby hospice, and put morphine patches on his cheeks, and he would pass away without any pain. So those were the only two options he gave me: terminate or palliative care, and let him live for however long he was able to live. My son's diagnosis, in case you're wondering, it is called thanatophoric skeletal dysplasia. He is a little person, but what makes his diagnosis different from other little people is his lungs are very small. So with his lungs being small, how we breathe in and out, he would not be able to do that because he doesn't have, his rib cage isn't wide enough for his lungs to expand. So again, he told me those are my two options. I am a very resourceful person. I figured out a way. I'm like, are you sure? Is this it? Is that all I can do? I did research. His diagnosis is very rare. He is one of 13 children in the United States known with this diagnosis. So I know more than 13 children. I'm sure you all know more than 13 children. And my son happens to be one of the children with this particular diagnosis. So I'm like, okay, I heard that I can do extreme measures. He said, okay, well, no, I told him I wanted to do extreme measures. He said, are you sure? So extreme measures mean once my son is born, I want them to do everything that they can to save him, to make sure that he can be here. He never gave me that option. He gave me two. When I told him I wanted that, every appointment he told me my son would die. Every appointment. He's like, are you sure this is something that you want to do? Then he told me he would pass away in utero. So while I'm carrying him, my son would pass away because the fluid would at some point drown him in a sense, because his lungs are not allowing him to swallow the fluid how most babies would. Every appointment, I I cried at every appointment. His dad came to a few, but most of the time it was just me, which was very, very hard. My pregnancy with Jakobi was a lot. But with that happening and being said, even though he told me that my child would pass away in utero or he would be born and he wouldn't be strong enough to cry, on January 17th, 2019, I had my son, who was almost 7 pounds. They said he would only make it to maybe 3 or 4. He was almost 7 pounds. He came out screaming. Do you hear me? He was loud, strong, and I he got the care that he needed. He was in a hospital for 6 months, but my son is almost 4 years old. Not only was it my faith that got me to where to give my son a chance, a fighting chance, and not giving up. That for me at 29 was the biggest obstacle that I have ever experienced. I didn't know what I didn't know what I was going to do, but I literally, I kept going and I prayed and I'm like, this can't be it. But even if it was it and Jakobi didn't make it, at least I would have been able to say I did everything that I could for him. That's the backstory behind how everything evolved and how that obstacle that I faced with my child, with the doctors, him being in a hospital, I turned my story into a real testimony. And I'm not the type of person to just say like, oh, woe is me, I feel sorry for me, you should feel sorry for me. I have this child, Jakobi's on a ventilator, Jakobi has a G2, but Jakobi is so full of life. Like, he is full of life. That baby is special. And one day I was in a hospital with him, and one of the volunteers were reading, and as he was reading to him, I said, he's very engaged. Like, he loved it, he paid attention, he listened. So in my brain, I should write a book. I have thought about writing a book a long time ago, like a long time ago. But I never continued on writing because life happens, right? Everything starts to go. I seen that book. I seen how engaged my son was. I had no idea what I was going to do to write a book. Nothing. I just, when I get ideas, I go for it. I don't allow anything to stop me. One thing that I always say is I don't allow ideas to just stay an idea in my head, because at that point it's a figment of my imagination. All I'm doing is imagining writing a book. I like to feel the things I think about and the things that I dream about. I want to see it in my face. So I jump. I don't know how, what I'm gonna do, but I do it. And that's what I did with Jakobi and me. I did research. I ended up finding a book coach, which didn't go so well for me personally, which is why I started Inspiring Dreams. You see how everything is flowing? Everything is just in alignment with how it all unfolded. So the book, right after Jakobi and that obstacle, I wrote this, I started this journey of writing the book. I had to do a lot to write. I worked 2 jobs to self-publish my book. That's why when people say like they have excuses as to why, my son was fresh home, he was destatting every day. For those who may not know, that term means we would have to bag him with the ambu bag because he could not breathe on his own at some point. Yet I was working my day shift job, and then I picked up a night shift job just to be able to pay to publish this book, because I knew it was something that needed to be done, and it was a story that needed to be heard, and I was the person that needed to tell it. So I have this book coach. I'm doing everything, I'm paying my invoices, and my book coach not really coaching me for real. And everything is like a bargaining type of tool when I paid you to help me. So the book went great. I released the book March of 2020. I started writing the book maybe in, I want to say, July of 2019. My son was still like little. He was in a hospital still. So I started writing at that point. But by like August, October, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, where do I go from here? How do I do this? Somebody recommended this person. I went with them. Once my book was done, I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. Sometimes I'm still shocked. I wrote a children's book that is all over the world. It is in hospitals all over the world to bring awareness to my son's condition. So it's called Jakobi and Me. And my oldest son is telling a story about having a sibling with special needs, but at the same time, talking about Jakobi's diagnosis so people understand what thanatophoric skeletal dysplasia is. So that's the obstacle. One obstacle, I had the baby. They told me not to, or he wouldn't make it. I kept going. I see this baby, I see how engaged he is. I see that he likes being read to. So I have a bright idea to write a book. I work 2 jobs. I have 2 kids at home. That's the obstacle. The book gets done, right? I have a book coach who didn't coach me, who till this day still has never even seen the book physically. But for me, what I did is let me be a solution to somebody else's problem. I created Inspiring Dreams with a J, um, Dreams with a J. I created Inspiring Dreams because I wanted to be the coach I didn't have. I hold my clients accountable. I help them. I provide the resources that they need if they don't. Illustrators, editors, beta readers, formatting, everything that they need, I provide because I was jumping from person to person. How do I have a book coach and I don't have nobody telling me how I should get an editor? How do I find an illustrator? Thank goodness somebody I grew up with was an illustrator. So that was, something that was easy for me, but everything isn't always easy as it seems. However, the resilience that you have and the things that you build inside of you, the characteristics to just know, I don't have a give up mentality for anything. I don't care how hard it looks. And it's powerful what your mind allows you to think. I have people tell me all the time I live in the clouds or rainbows and unicorns is all I see. To be clear, I see the real, but one thing about me is I'm optimistic. So it's very easy for me to see maybe this particular thing may be hard. However, I'm a solution-based person, so I always figure it out. I tell people all the time, I don't have bad days. I don't. It sounds fake, but it's really real. I have bad moments in a day, but I don't let a whole day dictate, a one bad moment in a day dictate the way I'm going to carry out 24 hours. And you shouldn't either. I know that it takes training for the mind, but when you have blessings like I have blessings, and I have a child that I see every single day, laughing, playing, work, controlling a tablet, things that they told me he couldn't do, how dare I? That's how I look at it. How dare I complain, sit here, talk about something that is it's a small thing to a giant, really. It's just the mindset. So if you feel stuck ever, or you feel like you wake up with an attitude, observe what your surroundings is like. What type of energy are you allowing to be in your presence? Think about all of that because it plays a huge part of everything. Peace is everything. That's how I persevere. My son's father, it's just me. I could complain about it every day. But guess what? Jakobi doesn't want for anything. He doesn't want for nothing because when you put out, and I know it sounds so cliche because we always hear it, right? Like, oh, you put out good, good. It's a real thing. Like when you think positive thoughts, positivity really comes to you. I don't have a worry in the world. I don't care what my bank account look like. I don't care what may seem hard at the moment. It will work out. It's going to work out. It has to work out. That's what I tell myself. When things is off, I'm like, okay, it has to work out. There's no way possible that this is it. There's no way this can't be it. So with all that being said, after the book, then the publishing company, my son's skin was horrible. Okay. When I say horrible, I mean, wow. Oh my gosh. It was horrible. The eczema had turned him. My son is he's a little he's light. His skin was darker than me. And I was like, what can I do? We went to a dermatologist. When we went to the dermatologist, they gave him like steroids, but the steroids started to make his skin look blotchy. And I didn't like that. I'm like, our melanin is solid. We don't have it's why is your skin so blotchy? I reached out to certain people and asked for help. Nobody helped me. Rewind. What the doctor told me, I had 2 options. I found a third. Y'all won't help me? Say less. I'll find somebody or I'll figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. I did research, y'all. I ended up finding a chemist in Europe. I haven't even been to Europe yet, but I found a chemist in Europe and I told her what it was that I was trying to do as far as this formula that I wanted to help with eczema and dry skin. She created the formula for me with the information that I gave to her. And y'all, I was in my kitchen whipping everything up. Have I ever done that before? Absolutely not. But I said, again, I am a solution-based person. It's an obstacle, I overcome it, and I persevere every time. That's exactly what I did. My son's skin was horrible. This wasn't working. So let me think of something that I can do. So that's exactly what I did. I came up with a solution and now I have Baby Bays Naturals. Just in 1 year, I launched 3 things. My book, a publishing company, and a skincare line. Even through the heartache, heartbreak, working multiple jobs, being a single mom, and having a medically fragile child, I kept going. If you don't take anything away from me today, I want you to tell yourself you are beautiful, you are strong, you are powerful, and you really can do anything. You can. Keep going. Take that idea out of your head and bring it to reality because you can do it. I did it with everything that happened. Every life is still life and right now, but I keep going. This is your sign, if you needed one, to keep going. I appreciate you all listening, and I hope that you take away anything. You can follow me at Inspiring Jreams on Instagram and Facebook, and Baby Bays Naturals on Instagram and Facebook as well. And thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your talk.